My name is Hadley, and I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in a family that looked perfect from the outside. Big house, fancy cars, and a chain of boutique hotels. Everyone thought we had the perfect life. But at home, it was different. My parents had a favorite, and it wasn't me. My younger brother Lucas got everything: private schools, new cars, even a penthouse. Me? I had to figure things out on my own. I worked hard for everything I got. I had 2 jobs in college, graduated with honors in finance, and built a career as a financial planner. I thought if I worked hard enough, my parents would notice me. But no matter what I did, they ignored me. The only person who really cared about me was my grandfather. He built our family's wealth and set up a $5 million trust fund for Lucas and me. He was fair and kind, the only family member who didn't play favorites. One morning, my world changed. I was packing for a big business trip to Chicago when my mom called. She sounded upset. "Hadley, it's your grandfather," she said, voice trembling. "He's had a bad fall. You need to come." I panicked. My grandfather was my rock. I canceled my trip and rushed to his house in Buckhead. When I got there, I froze. He was sitting in his favorite chair, reading a newspaper perfectly fine. No bruises, no injuries. He looked confused. "Hadley, what are you doing here?" he asked. I explained my mom called and said he was hurt. He frowned. "She asked me to lie to you," he said quietly. "She wanted you to stay behind." I sank onto the couch, stunned. My own mother made up a story about my grandfather just to keep me away. Then my phone buzzed. It was Instagram. A photo of my whole family in the Bahamas, smiling, holding cocktails. Everyone except me. Lucas had posted it with a smug caption. "Nothing beats family time in paradise." My breath caught in my throat. I was supposed to be there, laughing with them, part of the picture. Instead, they'd lied. Used my grandfather's name to trick me. The betrayal cut deep, like a blade twisting in my chest. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white, fighting back tears. They thought I'd just take it like always. But this time, they were wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my grandfather's couch, the glow of my phone lighting up the dark living room as I scrolled through those Bahamas photos again. Each one hurt more than the last. My mom's arm around Lucas, my dad raising a glass, everyone laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. They'd planned this behind my back, used my grandfather's name to keep me away, and left me thinking I was saving him while they partied. My hands shook as I zoomed in on Lucas's smug grin. How could they do this? My grandfather sat beside me, his face etched with worry. "Hadley," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "There's something you need to know." My heart pounded as he reached into his desk and pulled out a thick folder, handing it to me. "This is everything I've been tracking," he said. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the cover. Whatever was inside, I knew it would change everything. I opened it and my world tilted. Bank statements, trust fund reports, legal documents, pages and pages of proof that my parents had been stealing from me for years. "They were supposed to split the trust fund between you and Lucas," he said, his voice tight. "But they took your share bit by bit." I scanned the papers, my eyes catching on transactions. $1.50 for Lucas's private school, $100,000 for his sports car, more for his failed startup ideas, my money. The trust fund was worth $5 million, meant for both of us, but they'd funneled nearly all of it to him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. All those years I'd worked late nights and saved every penny, while they handed Lucas my future like it was nothing. "There's more," my grandfather said, his voice dropping. "They're planning to give the hotel chain to Lucas. Your dad's finalizing the paperwork now." I stared at him, my mind reeling. The Harris Hotels, our family's pride, the business I dreamed of helping run one day, was supposed to be shared. "They're cutting me out completely?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, his jaw tight. "I gave your dad control years ago, thinking he'd do right by you both. I was wrong." The room spun. I thought of every time I'd stayed late at work, every client I'd won, every sacrifice I'd made to prove I was worthy of this family. And they'd been planning to erase me all along. My grandfather's hand found mine, grounding me. "You don't have to let this happen, Hadley," he said. "You're stronger than they think." A spark ignited in my chest. Not just anger, but something sharper, colder, determination. They thought I'd stay quiet like I always had. But I was done being their doormat. I called my Aunt Julia, the one family member who'd always had my back. She'd walked away from the family business years ago, fed up with my parents' shady dealings. A corporate attorney with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue, she was the kind of person who didn't take nonsense. When she arrived, she took one look at the folder and nodded. "This is fraud, Hadley," she said, flipping through the papers. "They've been siphoning your inheritance. And if they're moving money to offshore accounts, they're planning to disappear, probably to the Caribbean." My blood ran cold. They weren't just stealing. They were planning to vanish with what was left. "We can stop them," Julia said, her eyes fierce. "But we need to act fast." I nodded, my mind racing. For years I'd swallowed my pain, hoping my parents would see me as their daughter, not just the one they could ignore. But now I saw them for who they were. People who'd rather destroy me than share what was rightfully mine. "What's our first move?" I asked. Julia leaned forward, a glint in her eye. "We hit them where it hurts, their reputation." A smile tugged at my lips. My parents lived for their perfect image. If we tore that down, they'd have nowhere to hide. The next morning, I sat with Aunt Julia and my grandfather, my phone in hand, ready to light a match under my parents' perfect facade. They built their lives on looking flawless and successful, pillars of Atlanta elite. But it was all a lie, and I was done letting them hide behind it. I opened Instagram, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Lucas's latest post stared back at me. Him on a yacht, drink in hand, with the caption, "Living the dream with family." My stomach twisted. That dream was built on my stolen future. I typed, my hand steady despite the anger burning in my chest. Funny how my parents lied about my grandfather's health to keep me from our family vacation. Funnier still how they took my $5 million trust fund and the Harris hotels, meant for me and Lucas, and gave it all to him. They thought I'd never find out. I hit post and held my breath. Within minutes, the notifications exploded. Likes, comments, shares. Friends, distant cousins, even my parents' business partners were stunned, flooding the post with questions. "Is this true? What's going on with Harris Hotels?" My phone rang almost immediately. Lucas's name flashed on the screen. "Hadley, what the hell?" he hissed, his voice low, like he was hiding. "Take that post down. You're making Mom and Dad look awful." I let the silence stretch, letting him squirm. "Awful," I said. My voice was calm but sharp. "They lied to me, Lucas. They stole my money, my future, and you went along with it. You don't get it. It's complicated," he sputtered. "No," I shot back. "It's simple. You took what was mine." Next was my mom. Her voice was ice cold. "Hadley, delete that post. You're embarrassing us." I laughed, bitter and raw. "Embarrassing you? You faked grandfather's injury, gave Lucas my inheritance, and planned to give him the business. You embarrassed yourself." My mom huffed. "We did what was best for the family. Lucas was ready for that money, not you." Her words stung, but I wasn't going to let them hurt me anymore. "You're wrong," I said. "And you'll see how wrong soon enough." By evening, everything started to unravel. Reporters called, digging into Harris Hotels' finances. Employees finally spoke up about unpaid wages and shady deals. My grandfather called old contacts, and investors started pulling back. Aunt Julia and I filed papers to stop the hotel chain from being handed to Lucas. The transfer wasn't complete yet, but we were close. If we proved fraud, we could stop it. That night, my grandfather gave me one last document. "This is the original contract I signed with your dad," he said. It gave him control of Harris Hotels, but there's a clause no one noticed. I read it, heart racing. If dishonesty or misconduct was proven, control could be taken away. "This is our key," I said, fire in my chest. "We've got them." Julia nodded. "Let's finish this." The next morning, I walked into Harris Hotel's office, contract in hand. I opened the door to my dad's office. He and my mom froze, papers in hand, panicked. "You don't belong here, Hadley," my dad snapped. I held up the contract. "Actually, I do." I explained the clause. Their faces went pale. Lucas stormed in. "You're ruining everything," he shouted. "Ruining? You lived off my money," I said. "You took my future." 2 federal agents entered, followed by Aunt Julia and my grandfather. "We have evidence of financial fraud," one agent said. "You and your wife are under arrest." I showed them proof of the $5 million they had taken. My parents were cuffed. Lucas finally realized the game was over. For the first time, I wasn't invisible, I was in control. The court ruled the hotel transfer to Lucas fraudulent. My parents faced prison. The court gave me full ownership of Harris Hotels. Lucas, without their support, was left scrambling. I didn't respond to his weak apology. Some betrayals are too deep. Taking over wasn't easy. My dad had left a mess: unpaid staff, shady deals, and a toxic culture. I worked to make the hotels honest and fair, paying back wages, starting a scholarship fund, and building trust. Slowly, the hotels became a place people wanted to work. One evening, my grandfather and I watched the Atlanta skyline from the rooftop of our flagship hotel. "You always had this in you," he said. "What's that?" I asked. "The strength to turn their lies into your truth." I laughed softly. He was right. They tried to break me, but they only showed me what I was capable of. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you. Keep fighting for your truth, and remember, you can reclaim what's yours.